Welcome back to the Structure Talk podcast. We're here again. Tessa, what are we doing today?
We're doing, this is actually part 3 of responding or discussing, I should say, questions that listeners have written in with, and actually, I shouldn't even say listeners, people that Google answers to their house questions and find your blogs. And
Yes,
then they write
yes.
to you.
And I answer them. And you know what's weird, Tess? I know this isn't going to totally surprise you. I will take all this time. I'll even research, I mentioned last week about how, got to get back to Scott, figure out what's the height that you measure from. I'll reply to people. I'll give them a good answer. I get a response like, thank you, about half the time.
What?
The other half of the time, I get nothing. Like, I don't know if my email went to spam or people just read it and they're like, yep, he deserved to answer my question or what. But it's half the time it is very unsatisfying. But I can't help myself. I got to answer. And you know what?
Oh my gosh.
Whether people, whether they give you the thanks or not, it's always helpful for me to answer these. I mean, because a lot of the time I'll have to kind of dig in and I'll have to get answers that I didn't have. I'll have to do a little bit of research. And it's kind of like blogging. I mean, you got to do research to figure this stuff out. I don't know all this stuff just right off the top of my head. But then once you've written about it, once you've taken the time to answer questions, it's like it kind of cements it a little bit more in your head. So it helps you stay fresh. So it's like, okay, it's an exercise. It's fun.
Well, you're a better person than I am. If I took all that time, my own personal time to research and respond to people and never heard back, I can't believe only 50% of the time they just say thanks.
I know.
It's wild.
I can't either. Well, Tess,
What is this world coming to?
before we get into the show, more questions. What's new with you? Anything to share? What's going on in the world with Tessa?
What's new? Well, this is actually a video podcast, so we'll just make that quick announcement. If anyone's tuning in and they didn't listen to the last one and the one before, we are now posting our podcast on YouTube, aren't we, Reuben?
Yeah, we are.
So if you'd rather watch our faces, which, warning, we've got the faces for radio, not for podcast.
We do.
You can watch. We'll see how it's going. But yeah, this is actually, we're recording this one back to back with the last one. So if you're wondering why we're in the same clothes, it's not that we wear the same outfit every day.
Well, speak for yourself.
You're like Mr. Rogers. You open up your closet and it's just black Structure Tech t-shirts.
Tessa, I'm going to share a photo next week. You're going to see how funny that is because that's exactly what it is. Yes, they're all identical.
That's good. That's good. Well, nothing too new, I guess. I'm going to be traveling for Easter and visiting friends and family and lots of fun stuff and eating lots of good food, maybe doing some little egg hunts
Fun
with nephews. So I'm looking forward to that.
Okay.
Yeah. How about you?
Right.
Anything new in your life?
Not a whole lot. No, it's life is good. Nothing new. Just kind of coasting along. It's a busy season for home inspections. And we're just trying to keep up with everything. That's all.
I was gonna say, is the spring market in the Twin Cities, is it strong? There's a lot of...
It feels like it. It feels like it. Yeah, we're definitely busy.
That's great. Well, and can we get an update on some of the new inspectors that you've hired recently and the training? Are they done with the training process? Did you grow the team?
Yeah, they're done with training. We got Edward and Martin are both out in the field now. They it's the first time, I think I've mentioned it on the podcast. It's the first time we've hired a previous real estate agent, but they were both real estate agents. So they both got the real estate background. And, I'm pretty darn happy with it. I mean, they really know how to talk to clients. They really have a good understanding of the whole transaction. They appreciate what it takes to get to the point of, maybe I'm going to buy a house, to I have an accepted purchase agreement and now I'm having a home inspection. They understand that whole
Yeah.
process, and
Yeah.
they understand the gravity of it. It's like the home inspector isn't supposed to be the gatekeeper, like, oh, I'm going to let you buy this house or not. It's not our job. Our job is to tell people about the house. And they do a
Yeah.
very good job of that. And they're both already getting rave reviews from people,
Oh,
even
that's
as brand
wonderful.
new home inspectors. So they're turning out great. I
Oh,
love
that's awesome.
I love having both of those guys on the team. Yep.
I think
Good.
when we were doing, when we were working on the training program at Structure Tech and I was helping out with that, I think, you can always teach people the technical stuff. You can have them read books and, you know, learn things. But when it comes to the bedside manner and all the stuff you just described of like having empathy for the people and understanding the process, that's something that's hard to teach. So it's nice that they came with
Yeah. Yep.
experience under their belt already. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. They're both very good at that. And that's what we always said, we
Cool.
hire for personality. Yep.
That's how
Um,
you hired me. I had no technical skills. I
Tess,
didn't
you
know
had both
anything
in
about uh,
spades. You had both in
uh,
spades.
I didn't know anything about plumbing or electrical stuff, like nothing. So that
You were a very quick study. It was very
eh,
easy for you to learn all that. Okay, maybe it wasn't easy for you to learn. It was easy for us to teach you. Let's put it that way. You picked it up like a pro.
well, it's a great team of people at Structure Tech. Let me just say that. Amazing
Yep.
people, and everybody had a lot of patience and answered all my dumb questions for a long time. So thank
Yeah.
you.
And by the way, if you're curious about what our training process looks like, by the time this podcast airs, I will have posted a blog post on the Structure Tech training process where I kind of dive into
Mm,
exactly what our training process looks like. I recorded a 17-minute video that almost could have been a podcast, but it really would have just been me monologuing. So I had a
yeah,
video with me talking to the camera, talking about what we do to train people. And it's largely
cool.
based on, the whole program that you came up with back in 2020, the adult learning model. Let's not
Yeah,
go into any more of that. If you want to
awesome.
learn more about it,
Yeah,
find that blog post. It's just a week or two old at this point.
very cool. Well, congratulations. That's awesome. How many
Yeah,
inspectors
thanks.
are there now inspecting at Structure
We
Tech?
got a
Do you
whole
know?
bunch of them.
Yeah, yeah. It's
More
hard
than
to
a
keep track.
dozen, fewer than 2 dozen. I
Somewhere
think,
in there.
yeah, I think there's like 16 maybe. 16,
Okay.
17, something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, congratulations. COVID um was difficult and there's a lot of businesses that didn't bounce back after that, but you're still going strong and you're growing. So,
Still
kudos
working
to
at
you.
it. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so we're continuing
Oh, do you
on.
need to do a shout out to the
Oh,
show sponsors real
our
quick?
sponsors.
We always
Thank you,
forget.
Tess. Yeah, always forget. Okay. Our sponsors are IEB, Inspector Empire Builder. And it's a coaching group for home inspectors. The big thing we're promoting right now is the conference coming up at the end of May. It's going to be May 28th through May 30th. It's going to be down in Texas. And it's a fantastic conference. Tons of learning, tons of camaraderie, tons of getting to know similarly minded, growth minded home inspection company owners, and a few things that's going to be covered. Oh, you know what? I'll talk about the fun part. I just
Mhm.
learned this isn't published. Excuse me, this isn't published yet, but there's going to be a pickleball tournament. How much fun will that be? And
Nice.
there's also going to be a casino night. So I think people are supposed to really dress up, or they're going to be doing blackjack and poker and roulette and
Mhm.
craps. It's going to be run by a professional party called Just Like Vegas Casino Parties. Sounds like a blast. Attendees get 1,000 chips, and they can win real prizes with raffle tickets. And you're supposed to come dressed in your Vegas glam.
Oh,
I
wow.
don't know what that means, but I suppose
I don't either.
I
Something
suppose you get decked
shiny?
out.
I don't know. Yeah.
Remember the
Are you
year where it was like what
sure.
was it? What did you go as? You were supposed to dress up as somebody. And I wasn't even there, but I heard about it, Tess.
Oh, I can't remember what the theme was. Was it like dress up as someone famous or I
Or a
don't remember.
doppelganger or something.
Me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you referring to the one where I dressed up
That
as you?
you dressed up as me.
I painted on a goatee. I had your sunglasses on, structure tech uniform.
Oh my gosh. I wish so bad I would have been there. Yeah, that's
It was
hilarious.
good. It was
Yeah.
good. Well, hey, are you slightly disappointed it's pickleball and not paintball?
Um, yeah, slightly, but I think you'll have a lot more people interested in doing pickleball. I mean, I even got you to come out and do pickleball for a structure tech
It's
event.
true. You know what? I do enjoy pickleball. It's fun. There's
Yeah,
a lot of rules. It's a little complicated for someone who's never played tennis or pickleball before. It's like, wait, what? Um, but it's fun.
it
I
is.
enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
anybody
also
can do it.
appreciate not getting shot at. So,
I never got Tessa to come out and do paintball with us once, but
yeah, I happen to be busy every time.
you were never busy. That is a bald-faced lie, Tessa. You
I
didn't
chose
want to play
not to.
pickleball.
I chose not to.
You
Yeah.
chose not to. Yeah.
Uh,
I'm getting my nails
uh,
done. What do you know?
God. I think I've
All
had my
right.
nails done once in my life.
Yeah, you're not that
Yeah.
kind of
Not
girly
really.
girl. Yeah.
Not really. I have been wearing more dresses these days, though.
Have
I'll
you?
tell you. Yes. Yeah, I don't know what's come over me. It could be like the 80, 90-degree weather, being hot all the time. But yes,
I'll tell you what.
there's a
If
shift.
I was a girl and I lived in Florida, it seems like a dress would be really comfortable.
You know, it's nice not having to wear the 5'11" heavy cargo pants and a tool belt and
For
climbing through
sure.
attics.
For
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
All right.
Anyways, should we get to the actual
All right.
guts
We
of
got
the
a few
podcast?
questions we should probably get to. Tessa, did you ever
Let's
listen
get
to
to
Loveline?
No. What's that?
Okay. It was a show that was on way back in the day, back when I was in high school, and it would be on at like 10, 11 o'clock at night. It was a syndicated radio show with Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew. And
Okay.
and
Oh,
eventually
okay.
it would be a
Yeah.
radio show. Eventually it got turned into like an MTV show where they were on, they were on camera. But originally it was
Yeah.
just a radio show, and people would call in with their questions about, love and STDs and all these tough to tackle topics.
Yeah.
And you'd have the doctor who'd give the real serious answers, and then you'd have Adam
Sure.
Carolla for the comic relief. And I would love the show. I mean, I spent my high school years listening to this without fail every time it was on. But as the show progressed, they would get to the point where they'd answer like one question throughout the whole show. I mean, the producer would be like, "You got to take some calls." And they would never take calls. And they would just chit chat for almost the entire
Oh,
hour. And
I don't know what you're saying with this.
that's what we're getting to. We're just chit chatting. We're 15 minutes in. We have not answered a single question yet. That's okay. Let's take some questions, Tess.
Let's do at least one question.
All right.
Should we
All right.
dive into it?
Yeah. Will you start us off? We got the question about the another one about rim joist insulation.
Oh, lots of questions about rim joist insulation. I
Yeah.
believe in part one of this series, we were talking about insulation in a 1920s house that had beam fill,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
Okay. So this is a question coming from someone who is looking for the best way to insulate between the joists at the rim in their 1931 house. Our laundry room's in the basement and it can get a bit chilly. I came across your blog article, quote, insulating a rim space, end quote, which was perfect. And you're in Minnesota too. They're in St. Paul. Anyway, I see the date of the article is 2011, and I just wanted to ask, has anything changed since then? In particular, is it okay to not put anything on the inside of the spray foam or rigid insulation according to Minnesota code? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's their question.
Yep. All right. What do you think, Tess? How do you
Um,
insulate a rim space? What's the
Mm.
best way?
Well, you know what my response
It depends.
automatically wants to be. Yes. Okay. So, yeah, if we're talking about like a new construction house, I'd say spray foam is a good way to go. It air seals everything, high R value per inch. I mean, you want to make sure you have a good installer do it. Foam is installed properly, mixed right, all of that jazz. Um, if you've got an older house, like what we talked about in the previous podcast, where you've got beam fill, or if your wood is encapsulated in concrete, like the joists are sitting embedded in concrete in between the joists, on top of the foundation wall, well, then it gets a little bit trickier about if you should insulate it, how you should insulate it. And personally, we discussed this in depth last time,
Yeah.
so I won't go into it. But there's potential for creating rot in the wood if you do some sort of spray foam over that rim joist and in between the joists, because you're just reducing the drying potential that it used to have, and all that moisture that wicks through the concrete and into the wood can't dry out. So we don't have any details about the type of house this is. It's 1931. We don't know if there's beam fill. We don't know the condition of the joists. So I always err on the side of caution. Like if there's a potential that doing spray foam could impact the durability of the structure, then I'd say don't do spray foam. It's permanent. It's tough to get out once you've put it in there. You can, but it's difficult, and I would much rather, this is a debate we talked about last time too. I'd much rather just take the energy penalty and the comfort challenges and have a solid structure that's not going to rot. Um, but you can also use, they're asking about rigid foam. Rigid foam can be cut and installed in between those joists. It's just if you do that, you need to make sure that it's airtight. And so you want to either foam around the perimeter of that so that it's air sealed, or caulk it. And that's just very labor intensive. So if you a DIYer and you're okay doing that, that's fine. And personally, you know, probably one of those two methods would be my preference, because I react to fiberglass. I don't know if you do, but if there's exposed
Yes.
fiberglass on the rim joist over time, the fibers, the glass fibers get into the air, I think, and I can feel it when I'm in a basement that has exposed fiberglass. I can feel it in my lungs. It irritates my throat and my lungs, and I just think it impacts the air quality in a negative way. So if you're sensitive to fiberglass, be cautious of that.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a great answer for this. I didn't
Yeah.
really answer it. I gave you some pros
Okay.
and cons of each.
Um, I guess my answer was nothing has changed since 2011. I mean, all things being equal, if you're going to
Yeah.
insulate a rim space, the only way to go is spray foam. It's going to have the highest R value per inch. It's going to seal up every little nook and cranny. I mean,
Yeah.
nothing compares. It is by far the best way to do it. And that's assuming that you're not going to cause some moisture problem. I
Mhm.
had them, maybe I didn't have them do it. My sister had it done at her house. She's got I don't know, I think it's like a 1940s home in St. Louis Park. And she had spray foam installed all around her rim joist and made a
Yeah.
big difference. I mean, instantly
Yeah.
it's like, okay, the outside walls are not nearly as cold. It really does help. And I was out at her house just not even a week ago. We had a little project where we are running some wires for a hot tub and we had to drill through the rim joist.
Mm.
And I'll tell you what, that wood was dry and powdery, um, dry and sawdusty, like
In a
absolutely
good
no
way.
sign in
Yeah.
a good way. Yes. I
Okay.
mean, just as wood should be. Um,
Yeah.
no signs of moisture whatsoever. That doesn't mean it applies to every house, but
Yeah.
it was on an area that had a lot of exposure, like it could get wet, and
Okay.
no
Yeah.
issues there. Of course,
Yeah.
one scenario does not cover every house, but I love spray foam insulation at the rim joist, and I'm a bigger risk taker than you. So,
Well, like you said, one thing I just want to add on to it, it does really change, I think, how the house feels. If you've got a really old leaky house and you do spray foam the rim joist, even if it's not an old and leaky house, even like 1960s, like mid-century modern houses that, do spray foam around the rim joists. I talk to, homeowners, and it makes a huge difference in how they feel in their home. That
Oh,
being said, y- yeah,
Tess, hold
yeah,
on. Just you say 1960s. I'll do you one better. I'd say
yeah,
my last house was built in 98.
1980.
And I had
Yeah,
all of the fiberglass removed from the rim space
remember.
because I had an unfinished basement, and I had spray foam
Yep,
installed all around the rim. What a
yeah,
dramatic difference it made. Now I'm in a
yeah,
house
yeah,
that's built in like 2002 or something. It's got a mostly
yeah.
finished basement, and there's fiberglass insulation at the rim. There's nothing I can do about it because it's finished. And my
Uh-huh.
outside walls are way colder in the wintertime. I'm on the first floor. You're walking along the
Yeah,
floor, like you can feel it when
yeah,
you get to the outside. And my
yeah.
old house was way warmer, and they're both
It's
relatively new houses. It really does make a big difference.
It's the R value and it's the air leakage, and the spray
Yes.
foam is stopping the air leakage
Yep.
at that rim. So it does, like you said, it makes a big difference. So that being said, just be aware if you're a homeowner and you've got, an older house and it's pretty leaky and you're going to seal up that rim joist, you are going to change how your house breathes or doesn't breathe. You're going to change, air quality potential, moisture that stays in the house, all those things. So it's really important to make sure you've got adequate ventilation in place and that you are aware of the changes that will happen once you make your house a lot more airtight.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And then part two of their question was, do they need to do anything? Do they need to put something over the spray foam? Because, when you got foam insulation, you're supposed to have some type of protection over it because it could burn, or it could give off some toxic gases or something.
Like some
What about
ignition
that?
barrier or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have to read the code again to see what it says, but I believe, yeah, if you do have like exposed foam in a habitable area, it has to have some sort of ignition barrier over it. Um, but I don't know. Are you familiar with what the
But
code says on that?
yeah, but there is an exception, and it says you don't need to do anything if it's the rim space.
Ah,
Nothing's
perfect.
required.
Okay,
They
good.
figure it's a small enough area that
Yeah.
even if it does burn, ain't going to be the end of the world. It is well worth the additional insulating value to have the minor little risk. Yep.
Okay, well that's good. Good news for the homeowner. Less work,
Yep.
less cost.
Yep. Exactly.
Okay. Well, good.
All
Well,
right.
we answered our one question for the show. Are we done?
All
Just
right. We're
kidding.
done. That's the show. That's a wrap. No, I think we could probably get through a couple more, huh?
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. The next one question is, hold on.
We've got a
Question
picture
is,
with this one.
oh yeah, we got a picture. Okay. I better share my screen. Let me,
Yeah.
let me make this a little bit bigger. And I will share the screen. Tessa, you read the question while I share the screen, okay?
Okay, here we
All
go.
right.
Question says, "Hi, have you ever seen an old drum trap like this?" Yes, the tub trap is clogged. We have tried many ways to take off the top and it will not budge. We have not found a tool that works to do this. Do you have any thoughts on how we can get it off? And should we replace it altogether?
Okay.
And here's a picture for those of you that are just listening and not watching this podcast. It's just an old drum trap. And what material is that, Reuben?
It looks like a lead drum trap,
Okay.
and the cap looks like your traditional sewer access cap where you've got four squares sticking up, and that's it. We've seen a
Picture
million of
like
them
a
like that.
Lego. Picture like a Lego block, like a square Lego block with the four squares on top sticking
Yeah.
out. Looks like
Yep.
that, just round.
Yep. That's what we got. Okay. And so they're saying, how do I get at this, right?
Yeah.
We need a
Yeah.
tool,
So,
or should we replace it all together? All right. And
what was
this
your
was,
response?
well, and this is what I talked about earlier, how, sometimes it's kind of unsatisfying. I'll give people a nice reply and then they don't say anything. But
Mhm.
I get to learn. Well, I didn't know the answer to this one. However, we do sewer inspections, and we've got a couple guys in the field all they do all day is they open sewer covers that look exactly like this, and they inspect the
Ah,
sewer, and then they put something back. So it's like there
jackpot.
cannot possibly be a sewer cover that they have not seen before, because that's all they do.
Huh. Yeah.
So
Tough job. Tough
yeah,
job.
tough job. Yep. So I asked my guys, how do we get at this? Here's the answer. You use a hammer and a cold chisel. And a cold chisel, if you don't know what that is, it's basically just a big hunk of metal. It's a very heavy chisel, and you can beat the heck out of it with a hammer, and it's gonna
Mhm.
go through whatever you're trying to go through. So you use a hammer and a
Huh.
cold chisel to puncture the center. So you make a hole in it, and now you take a reciprocating saw and you cut it into pieces. I've seen them do it before. It's you cut it like into pie-shaped pieces, going from the center
Wow.
to the
Huh.
outside, and that's about it. And if you can, grab a vice grips and put a vice grips on one of those little squares to hold it, so that once you've cut it, it's not going to fall in and
Okay.
block your
What
sewer.
happens if it falls in?
I don't know. Stick your hand in there and grab it. I,
Wait, our
no, I
last
don't.
guest used a robot to get it out,
I
right?
was thinking about Noah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Crazy.
It was
Wow.
something
Well,
similar to that. But yeah, that's it. And then, but of course, once you get to the edge, to cut all the
yeah.
way through, you're going to be cutting into the female threads on the drum trap a little bit, and it's
Mhm.
not going to take a new screw in cover, but that's fine. Once you're done, you simply use a rubber plug, and it's an expandable rubber plug. You tighten a nut or something in the middle, it makes the plug squish out, and it
Mm.
tightly seals against all of those threads. It's a great way to go. So super straightforward answer. Piece of cake. You got nothing to worry about here.
Okay. Can I ask a question? So that's if you want to remove the cover of this thing and
Yep.
actually and it's I mean, this might be easy to you, but to me the sound of this, no thanks. I'll pass. I'll hire a plumber.
Okay.
I would probably just replace the whole drum trap. Can you just cut it off at the lead pipe and put in a P trap?
Well, now I get to use your favorite answer.
Yeah.
It depends. Um,
Okay.
in
Okay.
some cases, you can. It depends on the configuration.
Huh.
There's a lot of configurations where, I mean, it's too tight. I used to live in a house where I had a drum trap, and I can't remember what the situation was, but it there was no room. It was like it was all this framing and all that around it, and you just could not get at it. There'd be no way that you'd be able to replace it unless you really wanted to spend a lot of money on a plumber. And my thought
Mm,
is, drum traps, while they're no longer allowed in the code for residential use, they're
mhm,
not necessarily a problem. The issue with drum traps is that where you have a traditional P trap, it's going to be a self-scouring trap. It means that stuff goes through there, and it goes through, water and solids go through there very quickly. The action of the water going through there quickly is going to wash out any sediment, any hairs, any fingernail clippings that go down, whatever. It all gets rinsed out really quickly. But with a drum trap, it's this big drum. I mean, think of like a coffee can where water goes. It might. There's all different configurations. Water might go in at the top
mm,
and then leave at the bottom, and might go in at the bottom and leave at the top. They come in all different
mhm.
shapes and sizes. But water goes in one side, it comes out the other, and you don't get any self scouring action. Any solids that go into a drum trap
Ugh,
go to the bottom, and they stay there forever. So they
gross.
can turn into miniature cesspools. They can get really
Ugh,
nasty. And the
mhm.
important part with having a house where you've got a drum trap is to make sure that it stays clean. I mean,
Ah,
I moved into a house in Minneapolis in 2004, and we had a drum trap at the bathtub. And I moved in like January, and I think by March the trap was clogged. Like it
yeah.
was it was probably mostly clogged by the time I moved in. I
Ugh,
no water is going down the tub. I end up taking the cover
ugh,
off. I take the cover off and there's like water backed up and it comes out. It just, it's leaking out
Ew.
of there. It's
Gross.
gross. Yeah, super
Yeah.
nasty. It
Ugh.
smelled to high heaven. But
Ugh.
I got some of the kitchen gloves, dishwashing gloves, and I stuck my
Mm-hmm.
hand in there and got all this,
Ugh.
hair, whatever. Good,
Ew.
gross. It's
Ew.
stuff that
Ew.
sewer
Ew.
cleaning companies see on a daily basis. Pulled all this
Yeah.
gunk out of there and flushed a bunch of water through it, and then replaced the cover. And then I picked up a $5 hair net. These little things
Uh-huh.
that you put over your bathtub
Hair
drain,
catcher. Yeah,
hair
the hair catcher
catcher.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You can buy them at any home improvement store. I put one of those over the drain, and I lived there until 2011 without incident. For the next 7 years, it worked flawlessly. No issues
Okay.
ever again.
Yeah. Well, that's your story. That's your happy story, Reuben. And
That's my
I
truth.
mean, that's your truth. That is your truth. Yes, if you're a homeowner who can, use one of those little catcher things and make sure your kids don't pull it off and throw their things down the drain, or you don't want to have to deal with cleaning it out on a regular basis, you know, there's
Yeah,
there's options, I guess, for you. There's
yeah,
options.
yeah. And I mean, if I had hired a plumber, I'm sure they would have charged a couple $1,000. It would have
Even
been
so,
expensive. Yeah, I
yeah.
do. I do.
Oh
That stuff's
man.
expensive. So
Ugh. And it's only more expensive now, too. I mean,
surely,
yeah.
surely it is. Okay.
Okay. Well, interesting. All
All
right.
right.
Hopefully we answered that question.
All right. Next one. This is on recessed lights. I'm going to ask
Ugh.
this one because I think you're going to want to answer this. Okay.
Eh, go
Sound
ahead.
good? Okay.
Yep.
All right. This one says, I watched your videos online, including the ones on recessed lights. I want to get them for my bedroom, but I have some big concerns about installing them because of possible drafts and heat loss and energy penalties and ice dams. Basically you're putting a hole in your ceiling and now you're adding a heat source to that hole and there's going to be air leaking up around it. That's what a recessed light is. And he said in your
Mm-hmm.
video, you mentioned that wafer downlights are great. And let's
Hmm.
define a wafer downlight. It looks just like a recessed light. If you're in a room, you got wafer downlights, you look up, you don't know if you're looking at a wafer downlight or a recessed light sometimes. They look almost identical, but with the wafer
Yeah.
downlight, it's basically an LED light fixture that's about the thickness of drywall. You cut a hole in
Yeah.
your drywall, you use a hole saw, you cut a 5-inch, 6-inch hole, and then this fixture just kind of snaps into place with these little tabs, and it's about the thickness of your drywall. So you don't have this big penetration going into the attic, and it's much cooler. So that's your wafer downlight. Okay, so I said, he wrote, in the video, you mentioned that wafer downlights are great, but you did not specifically mention if they would be great for a ceiling that goes into an attic, or in this case,
Mm-hmm.
a bedroom. Tessa, what do we do? What do
My
you think?
first question. Well, I've got questions. I don't have an answer. My questions would be, okay, what is the attic space like above this bedroom? Are we talking, is this a big, voluminous attic that has lots of space in it? Does the attic have good ventilation, good soffit intake, good roof exhaust? Does it have airflow through it? If you're going to make holes in that ceiling and allow warm, humid air to leak up through those penetrations, um, in a bigger attic, well, then it's probably less risky for dealing with issues. But if you've got, a tiny attic and there's not a lot of space up there, you physically can't crawl up there, then it gets a little bit more risky with potentially getting more condensation buildup on the underside of the roof deck if you don't have good ventilation. And if you can't get up there to do any air sealing from the attic side, well, then you just made holes and you can't seal them up in an easy way. So I'd say if you've got a big attic, you could crawl into it and you can push the insulation back and you can seal around those can lights that you're going to install and then put more insulation back over top of it. Go for it. If you
Yeah,
can get adequate insulation around the can light, if it's not right out near the exterior wall, top plate where usually, you get where the rafters, pinch down and it gets really small. It's difficult to get good insulation over that spot. So can lights in those areas are difficult. But if you put some can lights in the center of the attic and it's a big space above it, good ventilation, you can get up there and air seal. Okay, sure, fine. If you don't have that situation and it's a tight attic space, there's no access or there's not great ventilation or anything like that going on, then I would stick with the not punching holes in your ceiling.
yeah, yeah. Agreed, agreed.
Yeah.
Um, and my thought would be if you've got, well, you know what? I don't care if you have an attic above or not. I don't see any reason for recess lights to exist anymore. I will probably never
Yeah,
install another recess light in my life.
and that's a great point because actually these wafer lights, they look just like recessed can lights, but
From below. Yeah,
yeah, from below, you'd never know. So yeah, why would you punch holes in your ceiling if
yeah,
you can just use these?
yeah. Although, I mean,
Here's
you
a
do have to
question,
punch a hole. You need to cut a hole in the drywall because it does
but
sit
it's
flush with the drywall, but
yeah,
it's the thickness of drywall. And they have a little gasket around the lip that
yeah,
goes up against the ceiling. So, I mean, it's not like it's going to be as good of a seal as no hole, but
yeah. It's better
it's
than a
pretty
typical
good.
can light or an older can light. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the gasket's pretty airtight. I actually put one in my old condo
Oh, okay.
in a bathroom, and it was a nice option, I think. Although I had a huge attic and we had ice dam problems anyway, so I was like, what's one more hole?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what?
Um,
What's cool about those too is a lot of them now they've got this little slider on there, and you can adjust the color of it
yes, yes. And actually, you know what? Just talking about that, I just installed a new light uh in the kitchen recently. I took down a horrendous halogen like light in a big metal housing, long rectangular light. It was like or fluorescent. It was a fluorescent bulbs,
Mm,
the long tubes
yeah,
with the
sure do.
mercury.
Yeah.
And took that thing down and Home Depot had just an LED light that came with a remote. And I installed that. It's hardwired, but installed that and it's the best thing ever. It has been life changing being able to flip on the switch and then adjust it from warm to cool to bright to dim.
Yeah.
There's a night light setting. It is so nice. And now I'm like a light snob. I'm like, "Ah, this light doesn't have you can't dim it, you can't change the tone of it, you know?
Yeah. Did we lose a war? What the heck?
To go back though is what I'm saying. And a lot of these new lights you get with these LED and these features on them. It's nice to be able to change the color of the light. I think so.
Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
So, um, basically, my answer was about the same that you gave. I mean, I said, he said, are they good for a bedroom ceiling with an attic above? I said, well, not as good as nothing at all, but
yeah,
it's a lot better than a traditional can light.
yeah,
He said, do they reduce heat loss compared to other units? Yes, they definitely do.
yes,
LEDs run a lot cooler, and you don't have
yeah.
6 inches of can protruding
Wow.
into your attic space, getting closer to your roof decking potentially.
Hmm.
He also said, do they eliminate the chance of ice dams? Heck no. There's no way it's going to eliminate the chance of ice dams. Um, the end. And then
Nice try. Yeah,
and then he also asked, can you do spray foam around it? And you can you cannot do spray foam. You cannot foam these into place. If
yeah,
you should never have spray foam touching any of your recessed light fixtures. If you want to have spray foam in an attic and you've got recessed fixtures, you gotta have like this. What's the thing called that you put over the recessed light, Tess? What, a baffle? Or
Would
what
you
is it?
Well, I know you can build like an insulation box with like
Yeah.
Thermax or yep, and build
Yep.
a box and put it over top of that and then seal that box to the attic floor with foam. You just don't
Yep.
want anything touching. You don't want foam touching the can light or the recess light.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a product. It's like you can buy these things that are made to go over them, and they're kind of pre-formed, and I can't think of the name of it.
Hmm.
Too
Oh,
bad.
interesting. Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure.
All right, next question. You wanna? No, I'll
Are we
read this
doing one
one.
more? Is
Should
this
we?
going to be
Do
our
we have
last one?
time? Hold on, I didn't even look. We don't have time, do we? You got to
Well,
go.
this is I do need to go
All right,
actually. I have a
we'll
commitment.
tease it. We're teasing it. We're gonna have a
Okay.
great question on our next podcast. I can't wait.
I do you think this is going to be a four-part series? Do you think we've got one more show left with
Let
these
me
questions at
let
the
me
rate we're
see.
going?
Let me see.
I think we
You
only
know
have
what?
3 left.
We've got 3 more questions.
3. Yeah.
Listeners, y'all better send us some more questions. Or our next show is going to be very short. You know what we can do? We can chit
Well,
chat for 30 minutes and we'll cover 3 questions.
well, it's not hard for us, is it?
It's not that hard. Or
Uh,
maybe we'll get back to our regularly scheduled podcast where we talk about
yeah.
specific topics and we had guests on the show. We can do whatever we want.
Ugh.
All right.
We'd love to hear feedback from you listeners or viewers on what you'd like us to talk about or any more questions that you have, like Reuben said. So shoot us an email at
Podcast@structuretech.com. We read them all. All right. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We appreciate you. Catch you next time. Take
Bye.
care.